ถัดมาค่ะ how UK boarding school can enhance entry into top world university โรงเรียนประจำอังกฤษกับการปั้นนักเรียนเข้ามหาวิทยาลัยระดับโลกค่ะหัวข้อนี้น่าสนใจมากค่ะเพราะว่า Cardiff SixthForm ค่ะเป็นโรงเรียนที่มีวิชาการยอดเยี่ยมมากๆแล้วก็นักเรียนของเขาค่ะเกือบ 100% สามารถเข้าเรียนในโรงเรียนชื่อขออภัยค่ะเข้าเรียนในมหาวิทยาลัยชื่อดังระดับโลกได้เรียกได้ว่าเกือบ 100% กันเลยทีเดียวแล้วตอนนี้เราก็อยู่กับคุณเฮเรตาแล้วนะคะ Hi เฮเรตา
Good morning. Hello. Hi, Helen. How are you?
I'm
Good
doing
morning,
good.
everybody. Fantastic. Are you happy if I try and share my screen, Helen?
Yeah, sure. I will make you a co-host.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Let me just see what I can do. Bear with me a second. Right, here we are. I'm just hoping you're going to be able to see this in any minute. Hang on 1 second. Could you see that, everybody? Is that all okay for you?
Yes. You can make it
Lovely.
into full
Brilliant.
screen. Yeah, perfect.
I think I've made it big, but brilliant. Hello, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Henrietta Lightwood. I am the Global Director for Marketing and Student Recruitment for Cardiff SixthForm College. In fact, I work for all the Duke's Education Schools. It's one of the largest educational companies in the UK, actually, and increasingly in Europe. So Cardiff is one of our fantastic boarding schools, and in fact, it is actually the top school in the UK. But anyway, just to put this in context, that is the reason really why I'm speaking about getting into top universities, because nearly all of our students go to top universities. About 86% go to the QS top 100 universities in the world. Well, if you look at the private schools by A-level results, for instance, because you can see Cardiff SixthForm College, this is 2003, reported on by the Daily Telegraph, which is our major national newspaper. Cardiff is the top school. In fact, it's been the top school for 12 years. And if you're looking at this, the way the league tables are actually compiled is by the number of A-star and A grades that people get at A-level. So as you can see here, nearly 95% of Cardiff's cohort, 155 candidates last year, got A-star and A grades, which is pretty sensational, really. And it has sustained its position really over the past 12 years with some very, very stunning results. And as you can see, the numbers went up quite a lot in 2020 and 2021, and that was the COVID years where the marks were, where the exams were actually differently by teacher assessed grades rather than by exam grades. In terms of university destinations, as I was saying, 86% have gone to the QS Top 100, and these are the top universities they've gone to. These are what are known as the G5 universities in the UK: University College London, which there was 36 students, London School of Economics and Political Science, Imperial College, Oxford and Cambridge. And then we also get quite an enormous percentage of our Hong Kong students going back to Hong Kong University and Chinese University of Hong Kong to do medicine, dentistry and veterinary science in particular. And actually the grades to get into those universities are actually worse than Cambridge. So if anyone's ever seen our prospectus, and you can see and check on our website, people are getting 4 and 5 A stars to get into those very, very top universities. And these are the kinds of career choices that people are having. So 38 went on to do medicine, for instance, 17 onto economics, management and finance, 21 to natural sciences, 19 to engineering and architecture. I'm just going to admit this lady, whoever they are. Computer science and maths were 17, dentistry, veterinary science, there were 6, and law, there were several as well. So just bear with me a second, something's happened to my screen. Right, okay. So if we look at the university rankings for 2024, which is basically the year of 2023 going into 2024, this is done by the Complete University Guide, which is probably the best form of ranking. I think there are different ranking league tables, and they do rank the universities by several different things, not just by academic results, but by employment prospects, for instance, by research facilities, by student experience. There's many different things in which they rank the university's environment and sustainability, but you can see that Oxford and Cambridge come out very, very highly, as does LSE, for instance. St Andrews has done very well in the last few years, and then Imperial, Durham, University College London, all of those are really very, very top universities. And if your children get into any of those universities, I think they've done extremely well. I'm sorry, just gone on. So so I just thought it'd be helpful for you to look at Cambridge. Now, we've got about 40 students at Cambridge at the moment, but the competition is actually very, very tough, as you can imagine. So if you look at that, for instance, Cambridge has 17,000 applications a year. 70% of those are actually interviewed. So Cambridge is actually very good at interviewing. They particularly like to interview lots of people. And of those 17,000, 3,500 or nearly 3,500 are actually accepted. So, it means that you really, really need to stand out from the crowd when you're applying to those very top universities. And so really, what do you do? Well, when speaking to university admissions officers, which our careers department do, they have actually narrowed down exactly what it is that people are looking for when applying to top universities. Obviously, from a perspective of Thai students, for instance, good written English is very, very important. And so when your children, or when you as students, depending on who is on this call, are looking at things to practice, the written form of your English is really, really important. And how do you improve it? Well, really by reading books in English, or newspapers in English, in fact, anything in English, because the sentence structure and the construction of the way things are written rather than watched on television or on YouTube is very, very different. And it does mean that it improves hugely the way that you write. Passion for a chosen subject. Obviously, people want to know at university that you want to do the subject that you're wanting to go and study, and that you have maybe gone above and beyond in looking into it prior to applying. That you can show a positive attitude towards study. And that's not just about getting A stars and A grades, but it may be, for instance, that you've done an extension project, or it may be that you've done some TED Talks or some pre-university stuff, things that we do at Cardiff to help our students really, really achieve those top places. Thinking and working independently, of course, that's exactly what people do at university, but sometimes at schools, students are very much spoon-fed, or they're very much led by parents. What the universities are looking for is where students have actually done things independently and worked independently, because that gives them tremendous confidence that they're going to do well actually at the university. Interestingly, even for subjects like law, a good grasp of maths is very much felt to be a good thing. Process, which are some of the skills that come from maths, are very important. So people like maths. Now, this is a particularly UK thing, but evidence of success through a difficult start or background. Well, we can use that to our advantage, because you can explain that as a Thai student that you are learning in the second language, that you have travelled halfway across the world to want to come and study in the UK. So there are ways in which you can use the obstacles that you have achieved to address this in the personal statement. Positions of responsibility and leadership, whether you're a prefect, team captain, whether you've led a project, always very, very helpful from the university perspective. Work experience, another thing we do a lot of at Cardiff. We have a full-time work experience coordinator. Really important to show that you have, again, experienced the career in which you're looking at, particularly, I think, when you come to the professions, law, medicine, engineering, computer science. People want to see that you've actually been involved in the work. Music, drama, art, people like to see that people are well-rounded, that they can think creatively, and performing arts activity is very, very helpful. Also leads to very good skills like being able to present, to communicate well, for instance, if you use things like drama. And obviously an awareness of global or cultural differences. The universities these days are completely multicultural. People have to live together from different cultures and backgrounds. One of the great things about boarding school is that you've already got that under your belt. So how do you do it? For instance, well, first of all, IGCSE or GCSE results. The only difference of those is one is international GCSEs and one is GCSEs that are taken in the UK. And they're normally sat through different exam boards. But The top universities do check GCSE results, and obviously the more A-star grades you have, the better. Oxford is definitely looking for at least 6 A-stars, for instance, which is why when we run our one-year GCSE programme, we run 6 subjects instead of 5, because again, so many of our students are looking for that very kind of top tier. It's actually ideal if you can start your study with GCSEs in the UK, because there's quite a lot we can do. In fact, we start our top universities course, we actually start it in year 10, which is the first year of GCSEs, and we run a 4-year pathway to top universities where we're actually looking at skills that we can help our students right from GCSE level. So it also helps with that kind of written English, that understanding of cultural differences. Really, really good if you can send your children to kind of come in year 10 to the UK, I think, or earlier. It really, really helps. What we do actually is that we run a kind of a whole kind of university career path alongside a kind of 4-year one, which really develops those skills. So things like entrepreneurship, leadership, public speaking, performance skills, all those kinds of things we're starting to develop from year 10. And then we pull in things like work experience, volunteering, critical thinking, politics, philosophy and ethics, for instance, extracurricular activities, all to really round out the students so that, again, they are really, really well versed when it comes to top universities. Sorry, I'm jumping a little bit. One of the things that we do, for instance, is our university preparation pathway is probably about 18 months. Less for those who want to do medicine or go to Oxford, because they have to apply by the 15th of October every year. But really looking for the right fit is very, very important. And universities, for instance, teach in different ways. They have different research facilities. They have different general facilities. They're in different parts of the country. And finding the right one is one of the part of the process that we go through with each of our individual students and their tutor, where we actually look at kind of all the way through the modules, the course, whether they want to do any kind of work experience while they're at university, for instance, whether they want a city or a country location, what the employment prospects are like. Are they going to stay in the UK for 2 years afterwards? Are they going to go straight back to their home countries, in this case Thailand? So there's quite a lot of different things that we look at. Are they particularly fantastic at sport? Do they need somewhere that's got a good badminton team, for instance? And there are some universities, again, for instance, which have kind of limited choice. So veterinary science, for instance, there's actually less than 10 universities that offer veterinary science. It's a very, very kind of competitive course to get into. So when you're looking at something like veterinary science, it's knowing what those universities are and how you can set yourself up to be very attractive when it comes to them making offers. So you've probably all heard of something called UCAS. It's the University College admissions process, for instance. And it's actually an incredibly interesting website, and do go on and have a look at it if you'd like to. I mean, we take all of our students through exactly how UCAS works. But basically, in terms of a timescale, applications are completed by students, and then they're submitted electronically in the school, and they have to be in by the 25th of January of the previous year to someone applying. So for instance, if they're applying in September, the previous January, their application has to be in. It can be in earlier than that, but that is the very latest date. And as I was saying, Medical and Oxbridge are actually earlier. They have to be in by the 15th of October. Now, you can actually apply up to 5 universities, but one thing to bear in mind is that you can actually only apply to either Oxford or Cambridge. Now, many international students who do more STEM-related subjects, Cambridge is particularly good at subjects. For instance, Oxford is quite good at languages, literature. Well, they're very good at both, but particularly they have specialisms in those areas. So you'll probably find that more international students will be at Cambridge, also because Cambridge interviews a lot more, whereas Oxford will always look back at GCSE grades. So again, that just shows the importance of GCSEs moving forwards. Now, increasingly, people are not just going to the UK, of course, but they're going to universities across the world, for instance. So probably the most popular is the United States. And for instance, we got students into MIT this year, into Stanford. They're into New York University, Northwestern, University College California. They're big universities that that students might like to apply to. But we get students coming back to Thai universities every year, particularly for something like dentistry. So it just depends really on the student again and what they want to do. So again, it's helping work with them. But it's very important, and very few schools actually have this, that they have really good careers advisors. And we have Dr. Laura Foster, who's absolutely excellent, and Hayley Bendel at Cardiff, both of whom are really, they know the universities very well. They go around and visit them. They go off to the US, they go to Hong Kong to visit them. So their relationships are very strong. You've probably also heard of this thing called the personal statement. The personal statement is really your CV for universities. So how you can explain to the university why they should take you. But it's a very specific document. There is a strict limit of 4,000 characters. So when you're writing your personal statement, you have to be very clear, very structured in your expression. So it's very important that you, for instance, know how to write it, and also that you explain to the university why they should take you. In many ways, it's almost like a sales tool, really. You need to put things very clearly, concisely, and in an academic language, but also explain to the university why you will be completely invaluable to their course in, I don't know, computer science, for instance. Particularly because many Thai students obviously are speaking in the second language, asking people to read it, proof it, grammar, spell check it, of course, make sure kind of understand the flow of it is really important. And we actually go through several different iterations and drafts of the personal statement. We have a particular UCAS course where we bring people back early at the end of our first year of A-levels, where we bring experts in from many different areas, where we actually write the personal statement, having kind of gained all of the evidence beforehand. And it's worked really well, so that our students have been able to kind of concentrate on that outside of their academic work. Just to mention now, of course, if you apply to the US, the system is different. You actually have to write personal statements or essays for each college that you apply to, rather than you write one personal statement in the UK and upload it to UCAS. So again, fit is very important. If you want to come to the US, you really do need to come for GCSEs to Cardiff SixthForm College, because we've got to get a lot more skills in world knowledge, volunteering, understanding of the environment, global perspectives into your US application. So just bear that in mind when applying. University entrance exams. For top universities, when you're wanting to do professional subjects, so I'm talking law, medicine, for instance, you have to do extra university admissions tests. And there's a sample of these here. Probably the best known are the BMAT and the UCAT, which are for medicine and dentistry and veterinary science, for instance. LNAT's needed for law, but for things like engineering and economics, you might need the thinking skills assessment, for instance. STEP exams, which are the in-between exams between A-level and university for maths. They're advanced maths papers. English literature needs the ELAT, for instance, physics, the PAT, history, the PAT, and so on. And just to bear in mind, Oxford and Cambridge will also have their own admissions tests, and that depends on which college people apply to. So for Cambridge, for instance, there's 31 university colleges. They all have their different application processes, just to make it slightly more confusing. Another area we spend quite a lot of time on is the university interview, for instance. They're a very important part of the selection process, and they're really your chance as students to convince the selector that you are the right person for their course. Generally, interviews are not trying to trip you up. They want to hear about you, and they want to understand how good your communication skills, which obviously they can't just tell from your UCAS form, and this is absolutely the chance to show them. So now quite a lot of universities will actually require more than one interview. For instance, they normally do 3 at Cambridge. And if you're doing healthcare of any kind, and by healthcare I mean dentistry, veterinary science, medicine, physiotherapy, psychology, those kinds of things, you will probably need to do MMI interviews, which are the medical interviews, where they're clinical assessment interviews, where you take a different form of clinical assessment, and you might have 20 people doing very short, almost speed dating type interviews. So again, we need to prep you on that. And again, when you go to an English boarding school, that's what makes the difference between the very academic schools, I think, and the general boarding schools, is that they concentrate on all of this stuff, which just makes the difference when you're coming further on to wanting to go to top universities rather than to any universities. There's a lot of research that needs to go into interviews, for instance, and we will work closely with people, with career staff. Online research will work closely with our alumni, for instance, who, as I said, we've got 40 students at Cambridge at the moment, and they're mentoring all the students at the moment at our new Cambridge campus, for instance, for Cardiff SixthForm College. So people are having incredible mentoring from Cambridge University students at the moment. So, but presentation skills, critical thinking, because sometimes the interviews might be critical thinking interviews where they're going to ask questions about things that you don't necessarily know about. So I suppose really I wanted to kind of explain why studying in the UK really makes a difference prior to university, because sometimes people think, oh, we'll just wait to university. It's absolutely fine, but it will make a difference as to the type of university that you go to, and they are quite different, the universities. There's definitely the Russell Group, which are the top 24 universities in the UK, and the others, and having had a lot of students go on to top universities, and in previous roles students go on to general universities, and the experience that the student has and the job prospects they have afterwards is quite different. But really, studying in the UK, obviously English understanding and ability, there is direct entry. So one of the things that I think, again, if you're looking at medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, and I say this because Cardiff sends a lot of students to those subjects every year. We send 38 to do medicine. It's more than any other school in the UK by a long way. So when you're going on those very, very competitive courses, for instance, if you've been to school in the UK, particularly if you've come for GCSEs and then A-levels, you will actually in the quota be counted as a UK student. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll pay UK fees, but it means in the selection process you'll be counted as a UK student. Now, this is actually very, very important because the universities in the UK only give 7% of their places to international students for medicine. So if you're counted as a UK student, you have a 93% chance instead of a 7% chance. So for things like that, it's very, very important. Obviously, the UK and places like Cardiff, where we have this full-time work experience coordinator, and we do a lot of work with industry, getting work experience placements, work observation, and we don't just do it actually in the UK, we do it internationally in Tanzania, Malaysia, India, and Europe. Having this kind of background of interesting work placements means that you are so much better prepared, again, for university, but also in terms of when you're going to apply for jobs. So it's not just applying for university, but it's going on to your careers, where you can show this amazing work experience that you've had. The UK is still probably globally recognised, as probably the top for quality education. And I still believe that they probably are. My husband went to high school in the States, and it was quite interesting. They were almost a year behind the UK in terms of education. It's one of the reasons why universities in the US always do 4-year courses rather than 3. They have to wait for students to catch up. So it just depends really on what you want to do. But if you want to do a master's or a doctorate, you're probably better starting in the UK because you can move quicker through it. But it just depends if you want a slightly different structured, and some education in the US can be absolutely fantastic too. It just depends on the individual student, which is better for them. But for somewhere like Cardiff, for instance, because we're taking kind of the top 20% of students, you're with other students who are looking to do exactly the same thing, and therefore you're sharing experience, you're sharing ideas, you're bouncing ideas off each other. It makes it very, very dynamic and quite an exciting way. I had a really interesting prospective student who came this week, for instance, from India, who came to visit Cardiff SixthForm College. I'm just giving you an example. And we thought it would be interesting for her to have lunch with 2 other of our current students who are wanting also to study medicine, which is what she wants to do. And talking to the students made the difference about her thinking, this is exactly the school I want to come to, because it is having those like-minded individuals. It's the start. I say to all of our students when I'm talking to them, it's the start of your LinkedIn profile. It's the start of your networking. You're going to have students like you who are going to do top jobs around the world. Now is the chance to really, really work with those students. For instance, make some good friends, make some good relationships, because you never know in life, when you might need people. And I personally, having worked globally for many years now, have been very fortunate that I've had some amazing parents, some amazing friends, some amazing agencies like CETA, who I've become very good friends with. You know, and it's lovely. I mean, Andrew, for instance, to give you an example, when I saw him 2 weeks ago at BBSW, immediately came, for instance, because he knows I'm interested in taking a Thai cooking course. It's a small thing, but, you know, lovely that you've got those networks of something completely different, and came up with some lovely ideas for me to kind of come and do next time I'm in Bangkok. So, you know, little things, but it, you know, it's all a part of networking, and it also gives, I think, young people tremendous breadth in terms of understanding culture and differences, which is very important. So I suppose when you talk specifically about Cardiff Sixth Form College and how we can help you, well, as I said, we have trained and experienced university support and careers officers, and not every school has that, and we have it deliberately because all of our students want to go to the very top. Extension programs that we have through GCSE and A-level, we don't just want to worry about our students getting A stars. We know we can help them get A stars. If they're happy to put the work in, we have the teaching, we have the resources to be able to help them get A's and A stars. If we can get 95% of our students this year all A stars and A's, I think, and 100% got A star to B, I think we've got the area that I think we can get them there, the grades that they need. It's actually then, you know, for instance, how do we extend them? How do we develop their careers-based skills that will make the difference? I mean, obviously we have this 18-month support from the UCAS process, and we have particular advice on medicine and Oxbridge applications because they're very, very tricky to get into. You'll never get a lot of students into Oxford and Cambridge every year because Oxford and Cambridge have a political bias towards state school pupils within the UK. They're trying to help underprivileged children access top quality education, so which I don't necessarily disagree with. I think it's, you know, it's a good policy, but what it means is that, you know, those we need to look wide at where people want to go. We get students in every year if people want to go. We have if someone wants to mute, that's anyway, specialist experience of the worldwide universities, and also development of confidence. You know, we have been shortlisted for the Global Award for Mental Health and Wellbeing. So one of the things that when people come to Cardiff is that we very much need to look after the whole person, not just their academic, and their mental and physical well-being are of paramount importance to us, because if you don't generally have happy students, they can't possibly achieve what they need to. And so we want them to have a really positive experience of living in the UK, living with other students from around the world, and we have a very diverse student population. So we do a lot of work on making people feel comfortable, improving community spirit. And I think when people come to visit Cardiff, and again, I've had an agent this week who said exactly the same. She said the first thing that struck her when she walked through the door was how friendly and the community spirit of the school. And if that's the first thing that strikes her, then I'm very, very happy about that. So if you're doing Oxbridge preparation, for instance, I'm just letting these people in, Rin, if that's okay at the same time. So I don't know if you want me to admit Julian, but I'm very happy to admit Julian. So I if you like, which is no problem. Julian, I'm going to let in. So, for instance, if you're doing additional classes for Oxbridge, for instance, the only additional classes in step A, you know, maths, economics to get to those top grades, we will do interview training with our experienced career staff, for instance, our Oxford alumni, and of course we're part of Duke's Education, so we have Duke's Oxford applications, which is specific support for people getting into Oxford and Cambridge, and very, very successful. They have a 40% success rate into Oxbridge, so we bring all of those people in to help coach our students who are wanting to look at Oxbridge. Lots of things like formal discussions of current affairs, news and events, all ready for interview, so that again those critical thinking questions when they come up are not so much of a shock. Guidance on UCAS and the Oxbridge college forms, and as I was saying, there are so many different colleges, and actually understanding the differences between the college and how they will suit you is very much important when you're applying to Oxbridge. And as teachers, we need to give tailored Oxbridge references, so we write them quite differently, knowing what kind of criteria Oxbridge are looking for. Now, Cardiff SixthForm College has an Oxbridge Society because quite a few of the students will go. And again, for instance, we'll bring in a lot of our alumni, particularly from Cambridge, but some from Oxford too, to talk to students as part of the Oxbridge Society. Yes, I will actually 54 at Cambridge over the last 5 years. That's quite a staggering amount of students who've gone on to Cambridge, for instance. But just shows that people are still getting into Oxford and Cambridge. Bear with me a second, my screen has frozen. Right. In terms of international universities, as I was saying, increasingly students are looking at the US, Canada, Hong Kong, Australia, or coming back to Thailand, for instance. So it just depends on what people want to do. Again, our breadth of provision in terms of our university and careers staff has to be quite broad these days. And people are often sometimes looking at Eastern Europe, for instance. I mean, sometimes they look at that too. So we also have our specialist careers advisors at Cardiff, but we also, as I say, we pull on our Duke's Education colleagues at A-List, which is the US applications, for instance, our Oxbridge applications and others. We have a particular relationship with Hong Kong universities because so many of our students will go every year back to Hong Kong because they don't need to convert. Obviously, if they go to a Hong Kong university for medicine, veterinary science, dentistry, or law. So international relations is another one where people are moving back to Hong Kong, for instance, when they want to look at Hong Kong's position in the world. So, but it's very interesting, but and lovely to see students go to different places, for instance. This year we had 18 students offered places at US University, and so when you choose universities and you get offered to places, it may not be the university that you go to. So we had quite a few students, because some of them went, 2 or 3 of them went to New York, for instance. So probably about 10 students actually accepted places, but I think the ones that we were particularly proud of was Mimi going to MIT to do electrical and energy engineering, and Tolu going to Stanford for mechanical engineering and sustainability. So it's very interesting when you look at both of those courses, sustainability and energy. You can see where the US is looking for expertise going forward. So, but there's quite a diverse, different kinds of things that people are studying, from neuroscience to computer science. So, it just depends on the student. But we're getting people in every year, as you can see. Very interesting in terms of the breadth, for instance, of medicine, for instance. People are going for everything from the Royal College of Surgeons and Trinity College Dublin, where they're studying medicine, through to Hong Kong, through to Melbourne University. So it just depends again. Anyway, that is probably the end of my presentation. I will just come off share.
Okay, thank you so much. The information is very useful for students, and the academic results of Cardiff is outstanding and very impressive. And as we have Q&A questions, and we have limited of time, so I have already picked up 4 questions for you. The first one from is Virashapat. Her daughter is interested in aerospace engineering. And is there any student care at Cardiff or any support program to match their niche?
Yes, absolutely. Aerospace engineering, we do particular work experience places at British Aerospace, for instance, which is very, very top. We also go to Cardiff Airport and do a whole project on designing the insides of aircraft. So really, really specific. I mean, what she'll need is particularly is the in-between, is the step maths stuff, I think will be very helpful. I mean, I suspect if she's doing engineering, and I don't know, but she'll probably be doing maths, further maths, physics, maybe computer science as a 4th subject, for instance, as her A-level options. Can I just ask, I don't know if we know, what age is her daughter, Helen?
Let me ask the parents. ไม่ทราบว่าขออนุญาตสอบถามคุณวิรัชภัทรนะคะลูกสาวอายุเท่าไหร่แล้วคะ 16
16, brilliant. So she probably needs to come and study her A-levels next year, 2024. Ideally, if that's okay. If she's going to come to me, she will take some entrance exams. You'll take entrance exams with CETA, for instance. I think if she wants to go to a top university for engineering, she definitely needs to do her A-levels in the UK and at a good school, I would say, because it will make quite a big difference in terms of her options going forward.
ได้ค่ะคุณวิรชภัทรคะเดี๋ยวยังไงสามารถติดต่อเจ้าหน้าที่ CETA ได้เลยนะคะทางเจ้าหน้าที่ค่ะจะทำนัดเพื่อพูดคุยกับคุณ Henrietta เพิ่มเติมให้ค่ะ and we go to the next questions for top university how many GCSE subjects should student attend at minimums
It depends on whether they're doing a 1-year GCSE or a 2-year GCSE course. If they're doing a 2-year GCSE, I would suggest 9 or 10. But they need to get as many A's and A stars as possible. If they're doing a 1-year course, if they want to go to a top university, I think they need to do 6.
Okay, thank you. For the next questions, if their child is currently in year 12 in international school in Bangkok, do you have any online course to support offshore international student at all?
Yes, we do. As part of Duke's education, it depends on which subject they want to do, but we have online support if they want to do medicine or law. We also own the medic portal and the law portal, and we can give one-to-one support on that. If they want to go to Oxford and Cambridge, we can do one-to-one support with Oxbridge Educations, which we can do basically online. So there are things we can do. It just really depends. It may be worth considering. The other thing that might be worth considering is I have options to take people for University Foundation, for instance, at St Andrews, or do a 1-year A-level at Rochester. A-level for a really top university. I would suggest they come to the UK for A-levels. However, it depends, because actually the standard. So when I look at quite a lot of the schools in Bangkok, so whether it's Bromsgrove or Shrewsbury or Bangkok Patna or whichever it is that the school's coming from, quite a lot of times there's quite big gaps in students' knowledge because they've been quite narrow in the subjects they've been studying and they've not done any of the university preparation. So I would really consider, if you want a top university, I'm not talking about any university, I'm talking about the top universities for the top subjects. I really think you need to, think about whether or not you change your daughter to come and study A-levels, basically, in the UK.
Okay, so we come to the last questions. Is there any activities for students to relax for their studies, such as music or sport, available at Cardiff?
So yeah, no, goodness, absolutely huge extracurricular program. We have a very thriving drama society which does a big drama musical theatre production every year. I think it was interesting. I was talking to Wells Cathedral School, who are very good friends with the marketing director at Wells, and we were actually comparing the numbers of diploma level musicians, because Wells is absolutely superb at music, and actually Cardiff has more diploma level musicians than Wells Cathedral School. So we have a lot of interesting kind of groups and orchestras. In fact, actually we take our students to the county orchestra because they're so good. We actually take them above school level to a county level. We have a lot of sport that goes on, really big sports day. Every week people are playing badminton, basketball, tennis, golf, swimming, yoga, fitness. People absolutely do exactly what they want. And up to the end of GCSE, we do huge amounts of extracurricular. When people come to A-levels, we slightly limit the extracurricular because they have all of this university programs and what we call our super curricular, which is our careers-based program, on top. So obviously people have only got a certain amount of hours in the day and we're just trying to make the best use of them. But particularly for our 1- and 2-year GCSE students, oh goodness me, there's a whole range of clubs. You can be part of the NASA Space Settlement Design Competition. You can, Cardiff has got 4 out of the 6 on the international debating team, for instance. They can do Model United Nations, European Youth Parliament, Duke of Edinburgh scheme with trekking and hiking and mountain biking. Anything really that you want to do. Cardiff's got an enormous extracurricular program, huge.
That's such so interesting.
Yes, honestly, Helen, it's a wonderful school. I've worked, as you probably know, in education for 20 years now. I've actually worked for 5 top school boarding schools before working for Duke's Education in Cardiff. And I have to say, I have never enjoyed working for a school as much as I've enjoyed working for Cardiff. They are so innovative, so interested in kind of going above and beyond, and thinking not just becoming very reliant on this is how we've done things all the time. They're always looking for different ways to do things. Or there's a brilliant project which is going on with the maths department at the moment where they're looking at maths teaching in Singapore. So Singapore teaches maths, probably one of the best places in the world. And we're kind of looking at if there's any principles in that teaching that we can bring in for our maths students at A level. You know, really interesting. You know, not just looking at the UK, but very much globally. And you know, I have to say, I love it. I love the diversity of students, and everyone has this kind of wonderful kind of, you know, very global friendship groups, and it's very exciting actually for young people.
That's great. So thank you so much, Henrietta, for today and for sharing the good information with that. And for any family who would like to have a private talk, we can set up the meetings and also
Absolutely,
meet you
no
at
problem
the
at all.
CETA fair.
I am indeed. I'm coming to your CETA fair in February and very much looking forward to having it, just to coming to Bangkok again, one of my favourite places to come. So thank you very much, Helen and the CETA team, for your time this morning.
Thank you. Have a
Everybody
nice
listening.
day.
Really appreciated. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.